Lance Ogunyode. Is that right?
Yeah, Ogunyode is it's Ogunyode. So everyone says Ogunyode, but I got ripped in Nigeria for saying it that way because I've been saying it wrong for about 20 years, and then I said it, and they just started laughing because I'd said it wrong.
So I would have said it exactly as I did before. The reason we opened with that because we've just been talking about how to say your name. I've been saying Ogunyode, but I always butcher the Nigerian language, mate.
Yeah, me too.
So it was important to get your name out there first because your DJ handle is Logan, which is obviously L from your first name and Ogun from your second.
Yeah.
But people call you fucking Logan all the time, don't they?
Yeah.
Do your editing.
I was in the queue once for some food at District L, and someone was shouting it. It took me a while to register. Then I was like, oh, yeah.
That's you.
Yeah, but actually, my name actually became that because my Instagram was L Ogun, and then I started DJing more. And I thought, I'll just use Logan. And then, so people already knew me as that anyway from Instagram. Then I changed my name as a DJ to that. So then now I just answer to either. Sometimes I just answer to DJ or Oi or whatever. But
it's more funny when people like, you know, when ambassadors or anyone slip a tongue call you.
Yeah.
Because they know you. So then it's offensive. I guess if someone doesn't know you, they'll just assume it's your name.
Yeah, they will do. I had to even tell Stella. I worked with Stella loads of time on comps. And she kept shouting, Logs, Logs. So she even shortened Logan to Logs, thinking my name was Logan with an A. And I was like, you know, my name's Lance, right? You can call me that. And then we had the discussion about it and laugh about it. But
you should call her Artois.
Yeah.
So right.
Watch you, Stella. I apologize for that. For that anecdote.
So before we get into you and what makes you tick and your history and that, the last question, the last guest left as a question. Okay. He was an MMA fighter, pro record 5-0 and all these nails. So I watched my tongue in that one, mate.
Who was that?
Teddy Stringer. Right. So he's from Chesterfield. He's in Cage Warriors at the moment in San Diego. And he come back for a recent fight. And because he trains at Project, he said he'd come on. So it was pretty cool. But I'm going to watch his journey because he's a killer, mate. Okay. Like all technique, submissions and all that. He's not just a striker, you know what I mean? He's got it all. So
I think I prefer to watch them most because it's the skill-based element.
Yeah. Well, I said to him, actually, when I watch a fight, because I'm not up with the technique and the technical stuff. I just want to see people knocking 7 shades of shit out of each other. Yeah. But the purists, they want to see that skill level.
See how you've made them submit.
Yeah, but he chokes them all out. 4 out of his 5 wins have been choke out. Right. So yeah, he's a killer, mate. But his question was, which was pretty prominent to what he does, is what is flow state to you? So he was talking about when he's in flow state, when he's fighting, everything slows down and you just get stuck in. So like, what is your flow state?
But it's funny because that's what my tour for this year is, because I think I'm doing it's just grown ridiculously, but I think I'm doing about 30 events this year. Okay. So I called last year's tour Do Epic Shit. I thought I'd get a bit more sophisticated this year with the name of the tour, so I called it Flow State, which is strange. But for me, it's similar to what he said there. So it's when nothing else is really in my brain other than the thing that I'm doing. So I guess it's like 100% pure concentration on the thing that I'm doing, but it's not concentration on something that I'm not enjoying doing either. So it's that combination of intense focus with like pleasure, joy, or whatever it might be. So if I'm DJing for 8 hours at a comp, I'm pretty much in flow state for the majority of that event because I'm not thinking about anything else other than the next track, where to take it next, what works. So I don't really do playlists. I do playlists, but I don't do I've not got it all planned out beforehand. So I've just got.
Oh really?
No. So I've just got on the side of my program, it'll have generic genres and whatever else.
Yeah.
And then I just freestyle for the entire time that I'm doing it. Yeah. So it's a lot on my brain, but if I was to do it and I already know what's playing, at that point I'm just a robot putting the next one in. So I won't really enjoy it. So I just pretty much freestyle most events. I've got some guidelines.
Yeah.
But it's kind of me just being what will work next, and it literally is just intense focus on what I'm doing.
So does that time just go like that then?
Yeah, so if I'm doing an 8-hour shift, the first 4 hours I'll be like, well, that went. And then it might get to 6 and I'm a bit hungry now, I need the toilet.
Yeah.
But in the main, and it's why if you watch me at an event, I don't really look up very often because I'm not engaged in what it is that I'm doing. But I don't really look up at any point and acknowledge what's happening. So for all I know, everyone's hating it.
Yeah,
I don't
fucking care.
I haven't got a clue. I'm just like, yeah, this tune next year, bang that one. Okay, yeah. So people will get pictures of me and stuff, but I'll notice them at the last second.
Yeah.
So I don't have time to think about what to do. So I just do a stupid pose.
That must kill you as well, because I know how good you like to look on camera, mate. It's
I don't know what you're talking about.
Half an hour in mirror.
I have no idea.
But
I have no idea what you're talking about.
You're talking about flow state like that.
Yeah.
So is it one of them things or not? Because you're so laser focused on what you're doing and you're in there. You know, when you get home from that 8 hours, you're not just tired because you've worked for 8 hours. Are you like exhausted because mentally you've just been fucking so in tune and switched on, or is it different?
I'm like, so if I do an event and it say it's from 10 in the morning till 6, that's 8 hours pretty much continuous. I get back and all I want to do is just zone out and still think of nothing. But I'm not thinking of nothing when I'm DJing, so I want to do the opposite when I get back. Okay. So I don't really go out after and like, hey, let's get together as a group. I'm just like, right, I'll see you tomorrow morning. And I'll go and sit and watch something or just zone out because I have used my brain for 8 hours straight. Yeah. But it's like, I guess it's like an intense mindfulness thing when I'm DJing. It's like I'm just focusing on that one thing and nothing else is really in my brain at that point.
Yeah. You're so passionate about it when you're in it and all that. You're like, you're ready to get into it. Only time I see you look up sometimes is when you're like playing a song for me or something. If
I know someone's going to get a reaction or it's one of my top tracks, then I'll look around to just be like...
Make sure it's working.
Yeah, or if I know, for example, like at ATHX, if I know like one of the guys there loves My Chemical Romance, then I'll throw that in and then I'll be like looking for him. Yeah. But other than that, I'm just hitting it. Or then somebody will say like, Lance, the timer's going off and I'm like, all right, okay, so and get back into it.
So for context, before we go back, context, like obviously you're like DJing on the UK fitness scene predominantly, massive events like Hyrox, ATHX, Defiant Games, Crossfest.
Defiant Games, yeah.
So like when you talk about the Flow State Tour and all those gigs, they're predominantly all those big events, aren't they?
Yeah, they are those big events. So yeah, I don't think you've missed any out there.
Yeah. So and how does that work? For like, how do you get like approach? You know, like Hyrox, for example, it's a massive brand. Is it like pretty cool when they come to you and be like?
Yeah, that one actually, I did the first Hyrox because it was Zach Weller actually was doing it in Manchester, and me and him talk and stuff, and he just said, "Hey, I'm in Manchester. I've been here for, I think he'd been there for about 15 hours. So I just said, I'll come down if you want and just do the last 2 hours. So I went down and did that stuff. So with the Hyrox one in particular, I think I just did that, and then I got speaking to the Red Bull guys who were sponsoring them. And they just reached out for a future event at some point and just said, we do this, but that one actually runs through Red Bull.
Right.
So it's not Hyrox that hire us, it's we're on the books for Red Bull, and then they'll just hire us on behalf of Hyrox. Oh,
that's pretty cool then, because Red Bull have events all over doing all sorts. So in essence, you could get any of them gigs as well.
Yeah, so I've only ever done Hyrox for Red Bull, but they work with Raynell as well.
Yeah.
But I've only actually ever been like asked directly by Red Bull to do Hyrox events. Probably because, well, it's mainly because that's my specific thing that I do.
Yeah. No, it's cool. So let's fly back a little then. So Young Lance. I'll let you tell us how young you want to be, you want to go back. But back when you were a kid, what were your passions then? Was it always music and fitness like it is now, or was it different when you were younger?
So we're going back like school.
School, let's go school. Where are we to start with?
So what age?
No, where
did I go? Oh, so I'm from Rochdale.
Rochdale.
Shout out to Rochdale.
Mate, can I do one funny story about Rochdale?
About Rochdale?
Yeah.
Okay.
So when I worked in pubs, you remember the Nile pub? Yeah. So I worked in pubs in Chesterfield. Now they were owned by a company that had a chain, and the Nile was one of them.
Yeah.
So we did this thing in collaboration with San Miguel. I do not even know how I got away with it thinking about today's laws. It was called the White Bits Tour.
Right.
So it was just after summer.
Yeah.
We went around pubs and asked people to show us the white bits. We took pictures of them. And then the winner won a free trip to Ibiza sponsored by San Miguel. It was obviously a big brand then. So I somehow landed the job of being the rep for our pub.
Somehow.
So I had to go and do
apply for it?
Yeah, well, mate, this is mine.
I somehow got the job.
But anyway, we ended up in Nile in Rochdale.
Yeah.
And I'm still scarred for life. Some of the people that showed me their white bits in that place. Men and women. Like mostly you go to somewhere. So when we're in Oldham, Aruba, a little bit better clientele. You'd ask for white bits, you'd just give you a bit of that, maybe show you the strap. In the Nile, I saw more dicks. I saw more like stockings and suspenders on 60-year-old women. I cannot honestly. That was interesting. So is Rochdale like that as a whole? Was I just given a little bit of a bad experience?
Thing is, you mentioned Oldham. I'm from Rochdale, so I'm from all over, but the main place that I grew up was Rochdale, and then I went to school in Oldham.
Right.
So it's that North Manchester. How do I describe us as a people? We're just salt of the earth, and it's weird because when you're in Rochdale, like you are literally the only way to get in and out of it really to anywhere of significance is to get on to the M62 and then get out. So you do kind of feel like you're at the end of like a big road, and then it's just a small town. So I don't know what it is about Rochdale, to be honest. I mean, there's some scary statistics about our town over the years. I think we had the highest teenage pregnancy rates in Europe at one point, or we were in the top 10.
How many of them were you responsible for?
I knew that was coming. Hopefully not. I mean, there's still time. Hopefully not. I don't know what it is about Rochdale, but we are a specific people. But the thing about it is, like I said, it's sort of the earth people.
Yeah.
So I could have been from loads of different places. I don't not like the fact that I'm from Rochdale at all. It's just your typical small town, really. It's just that we had our own culture there.
Yeah.
And I'm from like the majority of council estates in Rochdale as well. Yeah. So like the people that you're seeing, we're showing you the white bits. I probably know some of them.
Yeah.
Because I'm just from that background. I'm from like estates.
Yeah.
So me as a youngster, I was in Rochdale for the majority of the time. I went to school in Oldham, but I had a brief stint in Derby actually, which isn't far from you, is it?
Yeah, no.
So from like 7 till 10, I went to school in Alveston, in Derby.
I think I've heard of it.
So I had a little stint there, but the majority of it was in Rochdale and Oldham.
And what did young life look like? What were your passions there?
Well, I'm like you. I'm like that elder millennial age. Yeah, so the majority of the young lads was just trying to find conkers. Just conker hunting and being on my bike and that. But that was like Derby times. But my young life was pretty much sport.
Yeah.
So school was like, I don't know, whatever sport was on before school, and then break, football, and then lunchtime, some cricket or whatever, and then PE, and then footy training, and then external footy training afterwards. So I just filled everything that wasn't school with sport pretty much. And any sport, like I did every single sport that was going, other than cross country.
And swimming,
because the myth is true. The myth's not a myth; it's just a fact. Like I can do a length and then I'm unable to breathe. So I just played a lot of sport, and then I think it was just like everybody else those days. It was just sport, pop culture stuff. So what was on TV, what was in the charts, that kind of thing. So yeah, it was probably sport, music, and just.
But football, you were good at football, weren't you?
Yeah, I didn't really know. I was until I was about 10.
Yeah.
So I was in Derby. I played 5-a-side when I was like 9, 10, and then I had a really good game that day. I came back I played for some extracurricular teams in Derby for a bit. Didn't think much of it. I was all right. And then I came to Rochdale, played in the primary school team, and just realised I was really fast. Because again, I didn't know that until then.
Yeah.
Then I went to secondary school and I got straight into the school team, and my teacher, Mr. Wheelton, he just must have seen something in me. And a scout from United came to watch a game when I was in year 8, and then I went on trial there for a bit. So I went from not really playing football seriously at all to I'm at the cliff training, and like Beckham and Neville and stuff were there training in their age category.
Yeah.
And they'd be like training with us, trying to teach us. And I'm like, how did I end up in a situation? So yeah, my main thing was sport, but football was the main focus because I'd obviously shown that I had something. I had the skill and ability, but what I definitely didn't have at the time was like any kind of focus.
Yeah.
Which now that I'm an adult and I reflect, might have been some kind of ADHD, because I'm pretty sure I'm on the scale somewhere with that. So there's a lot of things like the coach said I wasn't really focusing on what he was saying, and I was like looking at everything else but him. when he's doing the brief. So the skill and ability was there, and the fitness and everything else, but it was more just my general demeanor or attitude or whatever. So now I can reflect on it and I know what it was. But at the time, it was like.
But you are laid back as fuck, though, aren't you? And some people will take that in wrong.
As disinterest, but it's not. I'm just horizontal.
Well, I know every time we're setting up for Defiant Games, I'm like, for fuck's sake, man. Can you come and help? You're just distracting everybody.
Yeah, I'm good for that. But
I look around, there's no one laying the floor down. I look around and there's like 10 people just around you.
Yeah.
You're just doing some shit.
Yeah, but it's just, I think it's a sense of urgency thing with me. Like, I'm just like, I need that. I need it to be like, you've got a day to do this. And then I'm like, oh, better do something that I should have done 3 weeks back.
Yeah.
And I've always been like that. But yeah, it's more that I'm just really horizontal.
Have you always been like that then? You reckon, like, all you can remember, just always like pretty chilled, nothing really like phased?
Yeah, I've got a funny one actually, because I was talking to my little brother about this, and he was saying, Lance, you remember when we were kids? And I'm like, remember what? And he was like, you come in from school. Well, they would come in from school, and they'd find me by the front door on my front with my bag still on my back.
What? Just having a kid?
Because I'd got in from school, I must have used all my energy throughout the day. And then I've got in, opened the door, and just like fallen to my knees, and then just taken a bit of a nap on the floor. So they get in, and they'd be that used to it, they just open the door and just step over me and go in the living room. And I'm not sure why. I think it was like an energy regulation thing. I'm not sure, but I would just get in, and then it'd be like, right, I'm home now, I can just relax. And then I would just either be on the couch or I'd be on the floor in the living room. But
still with bag
I've not taken anything off. Bags on me still, and I'm just out. So that's what I was like at school.
Yeah. So when you're growing up then, so what are you starting to think about like later life then? Are you starting to think about any form of career or out like that?
So this is when I was younger.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually got asked, well, you know, you have to do like your record of achievement stuff.
Yeah.
PHSE or whatever. I remember it because I ended up being it. But it was like, what do you want to be when you're older? And I said, one, be a professional footballer, because at that point I'd had some trials and it was a possibility. Yeah. And two, use sport to help disadvantaged young people, which is a really specific thing to say when you're like 15.
It is, because at that age, it's rare that someone thinks about anything other than themselves, isn't it? Let alone like helping others. So
yeah, so I don't know why. I mean, I've got an idea of why I said that, but at the time, that's in my head. I was like, I want to be a youth worker, but I think it's because my mum's like a minister in the Salvation Army, so she's a major. So she runs a church. So we grew up in the Salvation Army, and we'd go to like youth club on a Friday. Yeah. And there's probably, I think there was a guy I really looked up to there called Ste, and he was it's a great name. You're very similar actually. Is it Ste? Is it you? So no, he was just a really good, like, he was somebody that I really looked up to, I think. Yeah. And I saw what he did and the impact he had on me, I think. So then I think that fed into why it is that I wanted to then become that. At this point, I had no idea about salaries for jobs and stuff like that. If I'd have known how much you actually get paid as a youth worker, I might have been like, you know what, astronaut. But at the time, I just wanted to do that because it was something that I was interested in doing. And that's what I ended up becoming.
And how long did you do that for?
So I was a youth worker for, including being at the school, about 12 years.
Fucking hell.
So I came out. Yeah, I came out of uni. I was going to be a PE teacher, but I didn't want to. So I got a job on. If I say the amount I was on at that point, it's like a joke how much I was getting paid. But I started off as like a trainee development tutor with. The term was disaffected youths in Rochdale.
Disaffected,
yeah. Which I hated saying because in my head I was like, I don't know what you. Basically,
what does that even mean?
Well, the way it came across and the way that I now think of it because of the kids we work with was, you know, when a kid has managed to get from like birth up until age 16 and they've not had any positive influences, no parenting, they've kind of been booted out of the school system. So they're just like a raw kid with no kind of role model, no kind of personal development.
So they don't really know the placing world. And
they don't really know how to relate to people or how to communicate or anything like that. So that was the job that I did, was working with kids like that and taking them climbing, kayaking, walking on mountains, playing basketball, things like that.
Yeah.
In a group of other people like them, and trying to encourage these skills out of them, which was great to do because you knew you were doing a service, but the idea of seeing the difference probably didn't happen. I just in my head think, hopefully them kids have turned out all right as a result of what we did.
Yeah.
But I never would have seen.
No, but you gave them a chance that they wouldn't have had otherwise. So I guess you can take an horse to water, can't you?
Yeah,
but,
this is it. Like I did
mean?
my best kind of thing.
Yeah.
But, so I did that for about 12 years. And then I started working in Bury doing that as well. And and the good thing about that is I'm like one of these people who just loves to learn hobbies.
Yeah.
So I came up with about 3-4 new hobbies as a result of wanting to learn the hobby so I can teach the kids the hobby.
Well, you said climbing, you still do that now.
I still climb now, but that was something that we used to do. I learned guitar in that time because there was a guitar in the youth centre, so I learned that. And then I kind of used that in the chats that we were doing and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just suited me down to the ground. I never really thought about how little I was paid doing that job because it just fit with what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Looking back now, though, I'm like, you were on pennies, mate. But
yeah. Well, what do you think? What do you think sort of drove you to want to do something like that from such a young age? Do you think there's a reason?
Well, obviously having that youth worker at the church, but then I think I'm not really sure where that has come from. I mean, the only other thing that I can think as well is that like, so my mum is obviously she's a Christian. She's worked herself up now to being a major in the church, but she just embodies those values. So that's the person that I saw because I'm from like a single parent family. So all I saw was my mum and my mum's sisters, like my aunties. So I think seeing that and seeing how she conducted herself, things like that, and then being raised in the church with those morals and that whole combination, I think just meant that I was like, you know what I'd like to do is work with, and also because I was on estates and stuff. So I was in a weird blend where I was on estates where there was a lot of unruly stuff going on.
Yeah.
But I never really took part in it because my mum was pretty like not strict, but you didn't want to disappoint her. So I wouldn't be out doing all that stuff because I'd be obeying my mum in the house kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you'd see all that stuff, but through like a moral lens. So yeah, I think that's the reason why is I was exposed to what could have happened and didn't happen because I had the right guidance in the house. So I don't know if that's kind of fed into why it is that I decided to do that, but that's what happened.
That's such a good like little, I don't know, snippet of how you were raised by your mum. Because when you looked around at people doing stuff that was going to have a negative impact, you didn't think, I'll get in trouble. You thought, I'll let my mum down. Yeah. And that shows that I think like so many people get it wrong, don't they? When I'm not a parent, so it's easy for me to say, but you know, when you instill almost authoritarian fear, it makes people want to push that boundary. But if you teach them the right values and the right morals, then they know what's right and wrong. They don't need to push the boundary. So when they see that stuff going on, they think, oh, that's not for me. I'm better than that. And that's just such a good way. But when you're a kid and you're constantly told you can't do this, you can't do that, it makes you want to, I wonder what'll happen if I do sort of thing, doesn't it? So.
And she kind of led by example as well. So she wouldn't really like harp on at me and be like, you need to do this, you need to do that, which probably worked for me because if anyone knows me, they know that.
Tell him no, he's doing it.
If anyone knows me in the slightest bit, they know that no is like red rag to a bull, but not in that kind of way. But what I mean is like that with me, I'm kind of like, I will do what I want in the majority of cases. And that's not in like a selfish at the expense of somebody else. It's just that and it's not like a defiant. It's not like a defiant. Like it's funny that I've actually ended up becoming associated with a brand called Defiant. It's not that I'm defiant. I'm not doing it just for the sake of being defiant. It's just that I think for me, if something doesn't align with like my values or how I conduct myself or what I think is right and wrong, then I kind of struggle to just take that and not question it. And I've always been like that. So I think because I'm like that as a person, and my mum wasn't really, I mean, she's the least judgmental person ever. So I think because of that reason, and because she just led by example, so I just got to watch it in action and be like, Yeah, what she's saying actually makes sense. I would just kind of follow along with that.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, there was a bit of fear in there. Like I got slippered a few times. Sorry if you're watching, Mum, but I did get slippered a few times. That's
You
like
probably asked for it.
That's 100% asked for it. Like I'd never go back and be like, you beat me up for no reason. But I definitely asked for it whenever it happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think because she just led by example with it.
Yeah.
It just was something that I just absorbed.
Mm.
So yeah, I think maybe that's why. Don't get me wrong, there was some fear there.
Yeah.
Like not because of the slipper either, just more just like it's a Nigerian household. And my mum's like Nigerian and English, so there's both of those things in there. So you get that blend of like traditional upbringing with the Nigerian influence, but then you also get the more Western Rochdale upbringing. Yeah. So I have both. So probably just balanced out quite well.
So your mum born here?
My mum was born in Nottingham.
Right.
That's not far from here, is it?
No.
So she was born in Nottingham, but then I think when she got to about age 8 or 9, she then. So my gran is from Urmston, white lady.
Right.
Met my dad when he'd come over to either study or he was in the country. They just hit it off straight away, and then so you're going back like to like the 1960s, maybe.
Okay.
1970s wasn't really that normal, was it, for that to happen? It wasn't a common thing.
Yeah.
They hit it off and had 7 kids. So, but I think they waited until they had the last kid, and then they went to Nigeria then. So my gran, who's like little white lady called Margaret from Urmston, went on a boat to Nigeria with my granddad. And all 7 girls.
Oh, they were all girls as well?
The 7 girls, yeah. So they all went to Nigeria, and then the rest of their upbringing was Nigeria, and they all eventually came back. So my mum had both upbringings as well. She had like Britain, and then she had like proper like Nigeria.
And what would you say proper Nigeria is? Is that like strict and stuff?
I've only been once, so I couldn't really speak about what Nigeria is like.
I mean, like when you touch on the Nigerian upbringing, I mean, like from that point of view.
It's just, I would say, like if I was to compare my experience of the Western upbringing and the parts of it that I would associate more with the Nigerian side of the upbringing, it's not that it's strict, it's that it's just more like structured. It's a bit more black and white with stuff. It's a bit more as opposed to like being given too many options with stuff. It's like, do this, which can be good for some people because they need that structure and to be told what to do and things like that. But I think the parts of my upbringing that were more like that come from my mum's upbringing in Nigeria. Okay. So respect for your elders, that kind of thing. But then the bit where I could actually choose to fuck up came from the Western side. So when you balance them 2 things out, luckily I just chose to not fuck up that many times. Well, people who know me might disagree, but I don't think I fucked up when I was a kid that much because I'm obviously not in prison.
Oh yeah, that's kind of a good sign. Yeah, we'll be well behaved.
Yeah, we'll take that. We'll take it.
Yeah. So like, I know there's like some kind of royalty in you as well, isn't there? I remember once you were telling me some kind of Nigerian prince. I was like, what?
Yeah,
it's like
I forget all the time, but you know, like I was on a mountain leader course one time, and they said, "Oh, tell us 2 truths and a lie." Yeah. And none of them could believe that was one of the truths. And I don't even fully understand it, to be honest, because I think I've been told, but I must have been hyperfixating on some leaf on the floor or something when I was being told, because I don't really know how it works. I know that it's not the same as, you know, the royalty in England where it's the entire country. I'm not the Prince of Nigeria. It's not like coming to America. I'm not.
Great film, by the way.
It's a great film, but that's not who I am. It's more like, I guess the way I think of it is maybe Chesterfield. I don't know how big Chesterfield is really, but there might be royal families or like a bloodline in Chesterfield, and I'm just part of that bloodline. So yeah, like the word prince is used by my mum and family, but how that actually works, I'm not too sure. Mm. I just know that, you know, there's obviously the joke that, you know, every Nigerian in England is a prince, but me and my brothers actually are. Yeah.
And there's a street named after you, isn't there?
There's a street. So it's Ogunyode Avenue, which we all freaked out when we went over there because we were like, what? And when my granddad had died, which is why we went over there, it was like a really big deal. So there was like 3 different funerals within the week. And you know, there's like a GIF or like a meme of like the Nigerian guys in the roads with the coffin.
Yeah.
That's not a joke. That's a thing. So we followed my granddad up the streets while these guys danced him from the car to the place for the funeral, danced him back, and then literally they just carried him everywhere.
So, you know, like in Nigeria, then in those sort of cultures, is the funeral like almost a complete celebration then? Because when I've seen those clips of those, even though they were just memes, everyone is dancing and everyone's in quite colourful garments and stuff like that. Is it like they treat it more like a celebration than a sad time?
Yeah, I would say that, because I'm pretty sure when I got given like not the brochure, what's the word for it? You know, like what's it called?
Like that pamphlet thing.
That's not much word. That's not much better than brochure.
Order of ceremony, is it?
So the order of ceremony on that, it kind of said in celebration of the life of.
Okay.
So,
but they do in this country though. They say that in this country, but then everyone's dressed in black, miserable.
Oh yeah, so
like you should be. Someone has died, but obviously they're just like the snippets I've seen. It just seems like a party.
Yeah, I guess it's just a perspective thing. So like, it is like, even you said then, you probably should do that because someone's died, but it is the way you look at it, because rather than look at it that way, I think they look at it as, yeah, he has died and it's sad, but let's celebrate what he achieved, what he was about, who he was. So it was very colourful. There was a live band on. And then I'll tell you one other thing that happened, which me and my brothers couldn't understand, but it happened. So we had to all get up at one at a time while they called us out. And like, so the band's going off. And then it was like, the guy's almost MCing, that's all I can describe it as. And he's like getting one of us up at a time. So then I'm up there, you know, I'm like, if I have to, then I'll get into the zone. If I have to. So I'm in there, dancing around, and then they gave me this basket, and I'm holding the basket like this. And people were just coming up to us with money and just dancing around, just putting the money on us and letting it fall into the basket. So we just stood there like,
you were like backboard.
Yeah, literally backboard while money's just falling down us, and I'm just like, and that's just a tradition. Yeah. It's just a thing that they do. I still don't know why that is. Probably should find out. But we came out with a lot of money, and then I just gave it away to some kids at the river. Yeah, because I didn't realize how much it was. And my dad was like, "What are you doing?" But I just was giving them money.
Oh, was it more? Was it quite?
I think it was a lot of money. Yeah, but I just was like, "Here you go," to some kids because we disturbed them at the river. But the whole thing was just like, where am I? The culture shock was pretty immense. But you gone from Rochdale to like the back end of Nigeria is completely different.
Yeah.
So
because you're not even talking there. You're not even talking like one of the main cities. You're talking like a town,
like rural.
Yeah, which is like, because the differences between cities and towns in this country is like significant. In Nigeria, it's going to be even bigger gap, isn't it?
It's like the difference between like a city here and a city in Nigeria would be quite different, unless you were like in Lagos, which is the only time that I was like, oh, this is like a city. But then when because we got off the flight, and then we were like, oh, this is all right. It's not too different. And then it was like a 7-hour journey to where my dad's from. Yeah. And every time we went through like a small town, we were like, please not this one, please not this one. And then we got to ours, and it was all right and stuff, but it just got more and more rural.
Yeah.
So the culture shock was getting more and more strong as you drove through. Yeah. So the difference between like that rural part of Nigeria and say Chesterfield even would be huge.
Yeah. You know, they say, I heard something on a podcast recently that Nigerian men that immigrate to America are some of the most successful when they get there, businessmen or doctors or whatever they become. They have the highest success rate out of anyone that emigrates there.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah.
I won't be that surprised because education is really, it's like valued at like top. I mean, obviously it is in this country as well, but there it's like they will send their kids to America to go and get the best education, or send their kids to England. So my dad was in this country because he was studying.
Right.
So he'd obviously studied hard in Nigeria, then he came to here to then study and met my mum over here. So they will do that. So it's almost, I guess, like sending your brightest minds from your country over to another country where they're not really taking for granted what they've got in that country. Because, I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't think my dad had like a poor upbringing in Nigeria, but the difference when you then go to like in America or in England, they're going over there being like, right, I've got this like computer scientist brain and this whole opportunity here. So they probably look at it with different eyes than if you grew up in that place.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's interesting stuff like that. I didn't even know. Like, that's pretty fucking cool, man.
Yeah. So I think that's probably the reason why they're quite successful where they go.
Yeah.
Is that combination of like a hunger and like wow, I can get all this stuff.
Yeah.
And also they've already had quite a high education where they're from.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Right. So let's get back on track.
Because we tangented there. We always do that though. We always tangent.
Good though.
We always
It's
tangent.
interesting. So how do we end up like with this immense passion for music then? Because well, you clearly got it. I see you DJ and you love it. Like I've seen you just even when I've been with you one-on-one, and track comes on and you've gone.
Yep.
Like, you know what I mean? I'm like talking to what?
I'm almost certainly need to get diagnosed. I've definitely got ADHD. Is that what I do? I just zone out and just.
Yeah, but it's good. Yeah, but you can see why though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, where did you start to discover this love for music?
I feel like I'm on like confessions here. I don't want to tell all these stories, but I played first cornet in church.
Sorry, what? What the fuck's a cornet? Put ice cream in top.
I wish. I
like how you said first cornet as well. Like that makes it better. I went it back.
I started on second cornet, so which meant I went from this chair to that chair.
What is a cornet?
It's a trumpet, but a slightly different looking one.
Right.
So your trumpet is like a bit longer, isn't it? It's still got the 3 like vowels here, but the cornet is like a more condensed version. So it'd be like this big, and I'd be playing cornet in church.
Oh man, I need to see a picture of that.
Yeah, I mean,
can you still play it?
I can't now. I mean, I know what one looks like. I'll be able to hold it, but holding a tune, definitely not. But I played that in church. And then I think I'm not really sure where the intense passion for it came, because I've always been like that. But then, like me and my 2 brothers and my cousin, we've been like just plugged into music since we were like tiny, really. So whenever we got together as a 4, it'd just be Smash Hits magazine, smashing on tapes, trying to record the radio and stuff. So it's just always been like that. But then I think with me as well is I'll feel it. So if I'm listening to music, like I have a physiological reaction to it. Okay. So it's just kind of stuck with me. And then I got some decks when I was 18, and it's just kind of stuck over time. And I kind of, so the chronology, if that's the right word, of my like growing up is what I was listening to at the time. So if I'm at a comp playing something like Linkin Park, I'm back in 6th form in my head. So I think that's the reason why I just tie memories to it.
Music does that, doesn't it? It triggers it's such emotion. Like you can hear a song that you hadn't heard for, and it takes you back.
Yeah, it just sets you off, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So like if I get asked about my style for DJ, my thing is like I just mix like BPM with just nostalgic stuff really, and what I think will get a reaction out of people. Yeah. But a lot of it is nostalgia at CrossFit comps, because people are like our age average at CrossFit comps. So if I play, for example, let me think now. If I played like a DMX track or Ja Rule or something, all of a sudden most people there in the common room at school, and they're like, or they're in their first car or whatever. So because that's just what I've listened to over time, and what I know I like catchy tunes from those eras, I'll play those, and then it sends them back, I think, transports them. Because I had a guy message me and say like, oh, when you played Chris Brown at Reno, that was sick. And I was like, I didn't know he liked Chris Brown. I just played a Chris Brown track. Yeah. And it took him back to wherever he was in his life, and he was listening to Chris Brown. So I just do that because it takes me back. But obviously, I'm just looking at people at my age. And
do you buzz off that as well? Like when you see people or when you get them messages, is it like...
Yeah, because I don't do it for that reason. I just do it because I love doing it. But then when someone says, oh, you just played Basement Jacks, I've not heard that track for God knows how long. I've gone a spiral now back into that music. Then that's enough for me. But it's not the reason why. It's just a nice byproduct.
Yeah. So when did you realise you were like good at it then, to the point where you could go and like make some money off it?
I didn't really. It was a bit of it was an accident / an opportunity. So I went to uni with Dan Patterson, who unfortunately obviously passed away recently. But he's actually in my brain, he's the reason why I do this. Or at least he granted the opportunity for why I do this. So he had Rep It Out when it first started. And I spent 3 years at uni with Pat. We both did the PE course at Leeds Met. So I already knew him. And then we both fell into CrossFit randomly at different places. And then I think he must have just seen that I put something on saying I'd DJ for a comp at OL1 that I was working at, my friend owns. And he just said, "Oh, you come and DJ this comp for me and I'll pay you 100 quid." And this was like 2014. I was like, I don't know it for free, but I'll take 100 quid. Yeah. And then when I did the 10-hour shift, I was like, 100 quid.
Yeah.
But I did that comp then for like 5 years straight. And during that time, word must have just spread. And then people were giving the feedback saying, "Oh, this and that, and it was good for this reason." I didn't really take it that seriously, probably for another 6 years, maybe a bit more than that. But in that time, I was picking up, like I did a lot for Hornsey with Battle from Underground. Yeah. I did a lot with the first major one was probably Battle Cancer, because they came to MSquared where I was working, and they were like, "Will you be our resident DJ?" And at that point, I'm like, yeah. So that meant going to Berlin and Dubai and stuff with them. But it was lockdown, I think, where I just made a load of mixes because I was bored. And then the following increased a little bit. I came out of there and it just went a bit nuts. Yeah. And people were saying, "Oh, can you do this one? Can you do that one?" But I didn't really realize I was good at it. It was more like I knew I could mix and I could make tracks work in a line. Mm-hmm. But the choice of music, because I'd worked in gyms and the reaction that I got in gyms to playing music, I kind of went into the comp with confidence because I'm like, well, I know this track normally sets off at least 6 people, but I wasn't doing it in my brain intentionally to do that, thinking, "Oh, I'm going to be a DJ." It just gradually happened. So
do you think like because you understood the workouts that were taking place as much as the people, then you were like, right, this is going to be a fast and I need to play this, and that kind of...
That's still what I do now. So like, if there's like a lifting workout, I'll be playing like hip hop or... Yeah. You know, like your new metal kind of Rage Against the Machine stuff. It's not because I've just decided, I want to like rage out. Yeah. It's because the BPM's slower. It's a bit more atmospheric and like hard hitting. And then if that workout then becomes, I'm giving all my secrets away here, you know. Are you pulling all the secrets out, Steve?
Mate, everyone watching this is just going buying a cornet now. They're not DJing.
No, they're all just messaging me like, "Do you know Lance, please play the cornet?" What the hell? But if that workout goes from that to like rowing and something fast or running, then I'll go from hip hop to like drum and bass to match the tempo of what it is that they're doing. So it's not just random. If I'm doing something like a Battle Cancer where everyone's doing something different in the room, then I will just be playing whatever I think. But if it's like a Rain Hill, like a CrossFit comp, and the workout is this, then I'll look at it beforehand and then I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna go from hip hop into drum and bass." Yeah. That one's pretty much just tempo movement, so wall balls and kettlebell swings. I'm going to play house because it's the same BPM all the way through. So that's the only guidelines I work to, and then I just go nuts. But I think having worked in the gyms, you just get what works. And because I train as well, I know what I want to listen to when I'm doing those movements. So I just follow off that, really.
How did you get into gyms? How did you end up working there?
So that was Sam at you know Sam, don't you?
Yeah.
So that was Sam at OL1. He opened CrossFit OL1 in like 2014, and I was at the back end of the football career because I'd like fallen down the semi-pro ranks and I'd got to like where I was.
You're clinging on.
Well, by accident, because I was up front and then I was centre midfield, then I was defensive midfield, Makaleli role. And then I was right back. That's the all right.
Mate, when you end up at full back.
Yeah, and I was like, how did I end up at full back? The only place to go from there is the net or management. So I ended up like assistant managing with the manager. And I'm like coming up with teams whilst I'm in my other job. And I'm thinking, how did this get to this point? And then Sam opened that gym. I started CrossFit and then that was it. So it's been like 11 years and that's been the main thing I've been doing.
And you're at MSquared now?
I'm at MSquared now, yeah. So I moved to South Manchester. And Emma put out that she needed a coach, so it just made sense where I was living.
Yeah. So Crossfest, which first time I went, it blew my tits off.
Yeah.
Like never seen anything like it. So before we like get into the history of that, what is it for anyone watching that's done?
So Crossfest is like it's a functional fitness competition combined with a music festival. So the reason why it came about is because me and Sam from OL1 went to snowbombing festival.
To what?
It's called snowbombing.
Snowbombing
in Austria.
Right.
We went for a friend's stag do, and that is you snowboard all day, but there's like stages and acts playing. So you might snowboard here, and then by the end of the day, Chasing the Status is playing in the forest, or then like you do everything all day, and then Prodigy's in the main hall.
Yeah.
So we were like, this is the best thing we've ever been to or seen, and it's because it combined a sport with music that fit that culture. So we were like, this is ridiculous. Anyway, we got back, had a beer, and we were like, one of us said, you know what's not happened before, or what there isn't one of? There's not like a festival for CrossFitters. And then it was like, why don't we just do that? And then in about 6 weeks, we turned around the first event in the gym car park with a stage in the car park. And then it just went from there. So that was a result of that. And yeah, so now it's just like a blend of things that you might see at a festival, including music and bands and random things.
Ice cream trucks with DJs in back.
Ice cream trucks with DJs in the back, combined with people throwing down in front of it. Because that's just at the time what our heads thought was sick. So then we just did it. It got traction, and then the first one was 7 years ago.
And how many people were at the first one, do you reckon?
That was teams of 4, and I reckon we might have had maybe 15 teams of 4.
So it's not bad. So 60 people.
Yeah, something like
times that by 10, and that last one, wasn't it, in Manchester? 600.
The last one,
did you have more?
The most we've had in Manchester was we had 144 teams of 6.
Fucking Jesus.
Including the spectators, it was like 1,000 people in that room. I remember looking at Hyrox being like 144, and a lot of them had just like bought the tickets as soon as they went on sale. So it sold out in like 2 days, and we're like, don't know what the hell happened here, but I think it just touched on something that didn't exist, and on like 2 pretty big passions in those people's lives. So people like CrossFit, they like CrossFit.
Yeah.
But then there's not many who will ask, do you like music? And they say no.
Yeah. I don't trust anyone. I'm saying, what
I've
kind
had
of
one
music?
person say it to me in my life, and I literally didn't know what to say.
It's like that, innit? If you say to me what kind of music you're into, I'm not really into it.
Yeah, I don't really hear music. I'm like, well, we're not going to get on.
Yeah, like something's wrong with it.
Yeah.
So I think that the vibe at Crossfest, because it is like nobody takes it that serious, but they do, but it's just not that vibe. It's about going and enjoying yourself, almost expressing yourself. People dress up. It's like,
it's not because there's so many other things going on, and because we don't have like a prize pot, or we don't have like people who are elite athletes don't necessarily enter it. I mean, some have, but it's less about that because the RX standard isn't that high.
Yeah,
it's like the things that you need to be able to do are pull-ups and toast a bar in the gymnastics realm, and then the weights aren't that heavy really. So you can be in an RX team, not have to do all those movements anyway, because you get your mate to do it and you just don't do them.
I feel like that's a personal attack.
As I was saying it, I was like, you did that.
Yeah, I did that. I stood there with Defiant Ambassadors. I held a barbell like that for a bit.
Yeah, you did.
Hung on a bar for a bit. I pretty much just stayed still for the entire time. But
won.
Yeah, I won. Yeah, cheers for that, mate.
Yeah, but that's the way it was engineered, is that
she could carry someone.
Well, no, because you obviously contribute to the engine side of things and things like that.
Cheers, mate. Nice.
I don't have to say something. I'm on camera. If we asked the Defiant team what you did, they might have a different answer. But from my perspective, you contributed. But that's the idea of it, is that you don't need to be crazy skilled up for the RS category, and the scale category means that you can have anybody from the gym really doing it, because the movements that are in there, you could have been doing CrossFit for a week and be able to do the comp. So that sets the tone, I think, for how serious it is. And then when you get there, it's like you probably forget about the fact you've got to do the workout too much, because the music's blasting your ears. There's lights going off.
Pyrotechnics, fire.
Pyrotechnics is going off. Sam LaRoche is shouting, send it. And I'm probably throwing some horrific shapes on the in between you doing your workout. So the seriousness of it is kind of cut almost straight away, just because the people who are meant to be running it aren't taking it that seriously.
Yeah. I remember when I first went to it, you were in Sri Lanka when I spoke to you.
Was that?
Yeah, I was going down the comps trying to find comps to go to with brand, because we just started doing pop-up shops. And I remember you being away and just saying, I'll speak to you when I get back. And then I came down, and I remember because I'd not been on the scene that long.
Yeah, you don't.
But then there were nothing like it. So I got there and I was taking videos, sending them to people back at gym. Like, what the fuck is going on here? And we had a great day for sales, because again, we just started out. We didn't have much in the range, and then our relationship from there just went off, didn't it? And you joined our team. We sponsored.
Yeah, it all just made sense. But yeah, I'm trying to. But I was in Sri Lanka for that first one.
Sure, you were.
It makes sense. It makes sense.
But that's the thing with you. That's a great example of how laid back you are. Like, who the fuck before they put it on? Because weren't that your first time in that venue as well?
Yeah, I mean,
or was it the second there?
Yeah, I mean, if you ask Sam, I don't think he would agree, but that's a great example of you being horizontal. To Sam, that will be like, yeah, that's a great example of you being. It'd be a different tone assigned to that because I went to Sri Lanka before that first event, and then I had to come back and just do the
turn
event.
up.
Or was that the Unit 3 one that?
No, that was Crossfest because the first one I came to Unit 3 as well, but that was later in the year.
Yeah,
sure it was. Or would it have been because it was OL1 series? It weren't the Unit 3 one I came to. OL1 just did an in-house. It wasn't the one in the car park. And I came on the first day, and then the girls did it for me on the second day because I went down to London to watch a Michael Jackson tribute.
Did you?
Yeah, on stage. Yeah, it was good. But it's just something that's totally different. And then like at the end with the gauntlet and everything's going on, and it's like I don't know how you pull it off sometimes because on paper none of it makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know to be honest, but I think I annoy. You said before about the horizontal thing. I think I annoy the people who I work with because I work off my own personal list. But in my head, the vision's there. What I'm not very good at is schooling everybody else who needs to know the vision as well as they need to. So they just get there and they're like, Lance, where's the list? Like Sam will tell you, Sam the Rush, where's the runner play? And I'm like, and I'll just tell him it.
Yeah. He's like, no, mate.
He's like, no, where's the, and then Ruth as well, like my best mate, she'll be like, Lance, what he's doing. Then I'm like, I know what needs to get done, but what I've not done is fully brief Ruth on those things. So she's running around after me all day, asking me questions. So that's something I need to improve on for sure. But it's because I just know in my head, I'm like, this needs to get done. And it's not that I can't work with the people. It's just that in my brain, I just don't ask for the help. I ask for the general help, but then I forget to tell the people who are helping what they need to do.
Yeah. I'm guilty of that myself a little bit. Like
I'm like, I do it myself kind of thing.
But I think we probably both do that from different angles. Like I'm overly like, I don't know, I don't want to say like neurotic, but I'm like pretty structured and I want things doing as and when I need them doing.
Yeah.
But they get done because of that. Whereas you're the opposite, but stuff gets done. So that's why, like, sometimes me and you clash, don't we, on stuff? I'm like, mate, what's happening? Like, it'll be done, chill out. And I'm like, fuck me, you're making it worse.
Yeah, but it balances that bit. Like, you'll be like, okay, so the insurance for Defiant Games, and I'm like, logged it. And then it's falling out my brain a little bit. But it's still in there, and I'll get it at some point. I'll get done before the event. But you're like, can I tick it off my list? Yeah. And I'm like, not yet, because it hasn't been done. But it's probably a good balance, really.
Yeah. But it's hard getting what's in your head out onto paper because we all work in ways that suit ourselves because that's how we're wired.
Yeah.
So then when you bring in people in to help, Donna said it to me before, Tori said it to me, like, I'm not in your head.
Yeah.
Like, oh, yeah. Yeah. So like when you've done something on your own for so long, it's hard, isn't it, to not include other people, but to work how they want you to work when you're just so used to working. But when you ask for help and you want help, you've kind of got to let them help you, haven't you, sometimes?
Yeah, but I think that links into the flow state thing for me because a lot of things with Crossfest, like that all came about because of that blew up mainly because of lockdown as well. Because I literally hammered social media daily throughout lockdown. So when I came out, the coverage had blown up and the tickets and stuff like that. But I'm so used to being in like that kind of with Crossfest, I'll get into a flow state with it, do a load of stuff. So I'm used to that because I'm so used to working on my own with it. So then when someone else is like, what he's doing, it's not that I don't want the help. It's that I haven't even considered the fact I've got to tell somebody else what's in my brain because it's only ever existed in my brain or but like mine and Sam's brain, whatever it might have been.
Yeah.
So because it's been like that, thinking about telling somebody else, it's not that I don't want to. It's just that it hasn't come into my head.
Yeah, but it always works. It's probably like when you get to know how you work. Yeah. It's probably one of your greatest qualities because like I know you well enough now to know it'll get done and you're not stressing about it. Yeah. Like at Crossfest South last year, we're not far off it this year. But I remember like the workouts weren't on ATHX and I was freaking the fuck out and it was nothing to do with me. I was just a vendor. And you're like, oh, just put me in. I just sat down and started putting them in on your phone. I'm like, oh my God, people are arriving in 10 minutes. He's the most relaxed person in the world and no one even knows what's happening.
No, but they've been written. They hadn't been activated or something like that.
But it was so, just in a great example of, well, don't panic. They're all here. All they have to do is press a button. But some people would have gone, fuck.
And I probably do that internally. I probably do go like that internally, but I'll either just be like, right, what's the solution? Or I'm lucky that people around me like Sam and like Ruth, who can spot on me a mile off that I've gone into like overload. Shit. And Ruth will just appear next to me like this, and she'll be like, see these things here, get them done. And this is the list for next time. So that this doesn't happen. And I'm like, yeah, I get it, I hear you. And then she runs off. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm like. So for example, you're asking me to update the Defiant Games website, weren't you?
Yeah.
I did that at about 11:15 whilst I was eating mini dime eggs, watching Black Mirror, and I just was doing it with one hand here. And then I did it and sent it to you, and you've been asking for it for a while, and I was like, I just did it and then sent it. And in my head, that's normal. But I know you've been asleep by about 3 hours by the time I
rest.
You'll have been asleep for ages by that point. It's just different ways of working, I think.
Yeah,
and like, yeah, that's how I work. I'm not very good at just sitting with my to-do list and then, you know, I need to have come around to it myself.
Yeah.
And then I'll get on it. It'd be different if I was working for somebody in a work capacity, but because it's like my thing and I'm not used to working on my own time, I'll get everything else that I need to get done, then I'll end up at the thing that I might be doing.
Yeah.
It's not the best way of doing things. I'm not promoting it by any stretch, but
if it works, it works. So no,
it does. But there's definitely more efficient ways of doing it. It's just that's what I'm used to. So it's worked so far, but it doesn't really help because I don't have like and I polarize people with this one. I don't have like an inner monologue. I don't have a voice that I think in really.
Okay.
I think in like shapes, memories. I don't really know what I'm thinking, but what I do know is I don't have like a constant narrative going on in my brain, like a voice. And I've tried really hard to think if I do have one, but I don't. Every now and again, I'll say something out loud in my head, but it's not like a constant thing. So if I'm in here now, I'm not thinking, I'll pick that water up and do whatever. That's not how I think. I just do stuff, which I think is what links in with the creativity bit, because I visualize a lot of things rather than like thinking like a voice. So it's why lists are particularly important to me, because otherwise they'll just get lost in this like crazy ass vision that I've got going on.
So do you think like, it's interesting that what you just said. So do you think that that's what helps? Do you think most creative people think like that? Because what I would say is, when you say something out loud, or when you verbalize it, or when you've got a narrative, you're almost sort of detracting from your own creativity by providing structure to your thoughts through words, aren't you?
Yeah.
So then you kind of, it must fit into these words that I'm saying, therefore the structure is this. Whereas if you don't necessarily think in words in that strict way, it allows those thoughts, however they manifest, to become anything rather than a structured sentence or expression, doesn't it? So do you think that helps with creativity like that?
I think so, because like when I spoke to people before who like they do speak in that way and they like process logically and they'll talk it through in their head, which baffles me, because I'm like, if I had a voice in my head all day, I'd get to the end of the day, I'd be knackered, because I'm knackered anyway. I don't have a voice running from my brain constantly all day about what it is I'm doing and what's happening in front of me. So I think if you have that, it's not that you can't be creative. I think it's just that, like you said, it's one way of processing thought, and you're doing it through a voice. Whereas for me, I'm more like I'm picturing like the beach or something, or if it's Crossfest, I'm picturing what it looks like and I can see it, and I can hear it and things like that. But I'm not saying to myself, I want to have a stage at the front with fire coming off it and X, Y, and Z. I'm just picturing a stage with fire on it and X, Y, and Z. And then I put that into practice then. So then it comes into words and writing or whatever, but I don't think that through as a, and I've Googled it before, and people who do have it in a monologue are like saying that people who don't are like NPCs, you know, like in The Sims or whatever, like you're just walking around with no thoughts. It's not the way it is. It's that it's like, I just don't process thought in that way. So yeah, I don't know if there's other people who don't have an inner monologue as well.
Mate, man, don't shut up.
Yeah, this is what I mean. Like people say that, and I'm like, what? Is that not like
the only time it shuts up? If I'm on my even when Tori said to me before, who the fuck are you talking to? Like I'm just talking,
Yeah.
Like I can have like I remember the cleaner being here once. She was like, "You want photo?" I'm like, "No."
I'm just
This is how so maybe like words come out, but I still verbalize them, and I do write everything down the moment it comes out. So maybe that's a good bit of advice for me, because I do like to have 90-minute sessions where we'll go away from the desk, we'll sit down here, and we'll just like no laptops, no phones, think about this one thing that we're doing in the business and how we can make it better. But maybe we need to go one step further, maybe go on a walk into nature, or not even take a pad and just let your brain like sort of, that's where they say, don't they, like when people do shrooms and stuff like that, that's the way to unlock it, is like to go and do it in that way. But
it's like a confession.
Yeah. Last time I did it, my face was burning off, so I think I need to maybe take them in a more controlled manner. But I'm all for that though, because them experiences, them ayahuasca experiences and like stuff like that, I think you can probably learn a lot about how you think. So it's interesting when you say that, because when I have been in those states, because I had started microdosing not long back, but you'd obviously not tripping out then. But even in those states, you do think much more clearly by thinking less almost. It's weird. You have less thoughts, but the thoughts you do have,
it filters it out.
Yeah. So maybe that next level on is not even having the thoughts in a structured manner at all, let alone the clarity of having one thought. You're almost like an open book, and then,
So maybe that feeds back into you saying I'm horizontal. Maybe that's kind of why. Because it's not that I don't have any thoughts in my head whatsoever. It's just that I don't know. I just process things differently, or I visualize things differently. So I guess if you've got a voice in your head, that's like, is it your own voice?
Yeah.
You can hear it in your own voice.
Yeah.
This is clear that I don't have one, because I'm like trying to understand. Is it your voice? Is it like someone you know's voice? Is it Morgan Freeman's voice? Like, who's talking to you in your head all day? That would freak me out.
What voice do you think deaf people have in their head? Do they not have a voice? Do you think they think like you? Because you wouldn't hear it, would you? So you wouldn't know what a voice sounded like. That's weird, isn't it?
Maybe, but yeah, maybe.
We'll have to ask one.
Ask a deaf person.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
well, we'll write it down.
Yeah, but yeah. Jesus. Yeah, but then like when I was a kid, I used to speak really. I mean, I speak fast now, but when I was a kid, I would be like speed of light how I spoke, to the point where you probably couldn't understand what I was saying. So in my head, maybe that's like, because there's not an inner voice in my brain, it's coming straight from source, straight out of my mouth.
You need to be careful with that. That's what happens to me when I used to drink, mate.
This is what I mean. It's not like a lack of filter. It's more just, there isn't like a in between bit where I say the thing first in here and then it comes out. I just say it. But yeah, maybe that's the reason why.
It's really interesting, that. Really interesting. And but for anyone to, like, you know, when you say you Googled it and people like refer to it as NPCs and stuff, those people don't have thoughts. So therefore, you're not saying you don't have thoughts. I just have them in a different way to you, which makes you the NPC for not being able to fucking understand.
But you need a voice in my head.
What's it stand for, NPC? It's non-playable character.
Yeah. Because I had a mate who said to me once, like, him and his like missus, he would say something to her, and then she'd be like, "What are you talking about?" And he'd be like, "I told you last week," and she's like, "No, you didn't. You did it again. We had the conversation between me and you in your own head, and that's now a memory." And he'd be like, "Yeah, my bad." And I'm going, "How did you have a conversation in your brain where you've actually now confused that for something that didn't actually happen?" Yeah. And somebody else is now confused by that. That just doesn't happen in my brain. But the interesting thing is, for me, I think I'd like to have some kind of a voice in there, because it's not all positives having just visuals in your brain.
Yeah, sometimes you need someone saying, "What the fuck you doing?"
Yeah, I could do with someone, then I won't do things like last minute. If someone's like in here going, "Lance, you need to do this, you need to do that," there's like an urgency with this. Like if I had Ruth in my brain all the time, I might get things done in a more timely manner. But and maybe, but then you're saying you benefit from that level of thinking, so you want somewhere in the middle, don't you? Really? I
do benefit from it, but I have to talk it out even when I'm on my own. If I don't, it's very detrimental to my state of being. Like I'll be like, I don't know, I get whatever it is, whether it's feelings, words, or anything. I get stuff out. That's just how I am. and they come out and people sometimes dislike it, but I feel better because it's, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Because it's the weight of whatever it may be is off of me. So whether that's a personal feeling or something that I'm trying to like turn into a creation or a piece of work or an idea, the sooner it comes out of me, the better. But that everyone's different, and that's just like we work really well together, and we literally have just described how polar opposite we are in every single way, aren't we?
Yeah, because I mean, there definitely is like a voice in there, but it's only when there's something that I actually logically have to think about and like figure out, then maybe there's some kind of voice there.
Yeah.
But on a day to day, just like, right, I need to get that now. I need to pick that up. Whatever. I need to like.
Oh man, if you're in my head, you'd piss yourself.
Yeah, but I said to someone in the gym the other day. I was like, so what were you thinking about? Then and she was like, I was just thinking about the fact that I need to get that barbell. I need to do that. And I said, did you hear that in your voice in your head? And she was like, yeah. I'm going, what? So even just like mundane tasks, like pick that cup up. She's like, yeah, it's in my head. It's a voice, and that's exhausting in my head.
Yeah. I like it. I could give you the example of brushing my teeth.
Yeah.
I'd be like, right, you do it front now, then do back. Like, I can hear myself doing it. It's like, I've got to, otherwise I forget.
Oh, that is baffling.
Don't want to forget them molars, mate, at back. Right, before we've digressed into all sorts here, and it's been awesome, but I want to ask what the future looks like. Like, I'm probably not a question for someone.
Yeah, for me,
it's laid back.
One second, let me just go into my visuals. What does the future look like?
Yeah, like what are your plans, short term, long term?
I would say, like, I've never wanted to like buy a house. I never registered as something that I cared about, but I've like come round to it now. So in my head now, that's like a practical thing that I want to try and do is probably because I want to like prove to myself that I can do it, like save enough for it and then go down that route. Because that's more mega adult stuff in my head. And it isn't that I avoid that stuff. It's just that like it doesn't interest me, so I don't do it. So that's why I like do a DJ for a job and whatever. So going down that route and just doing that and sticking to it is something that I want to try and achieve. Short term, in terms of what I'm doing, is just kind of make sure that what I'm doing for work all kind of aligns with like who I am and like what I value, and then just making sure that it doesn't get like I don't stagnate basically. That I don't stagnate with what I'm doing, and then long term is just kind of like building on that. Like at the minute, obviously DJ a lot for comps. Got to figure out because I'm getting on now, 40. Jesus. So are you, Annie?
42.
You're 42? Ooh, so old, man.
Mate, I'm getting better age, am I right?
Yeah, you are. You're aging like a fine wine, bro. Yeah, I think long term, it's just like, okay, well, you're doing these things at the minute, but ultimately what I do at the minute are hobbies that have become side hustles, that have become main hustles, because everything I do is that at the minute. Like I do a coach, because I did CrossFit, became that, DJing, and then Crossfest. They're all side hustles that just ended up becoming like main ones. But they're not necessarily careers.
But your life is filled with things that you want to do that you enjoy. Like, so, you know, the outside looking in of people that need a structured career or need to have a mortgage and 2.4 children, all that shit. How many of them hate their lives? You literally make a living off being good at your hobbies. Like, that's a pretty fucking good place to be.
Yeah, I've not heard anyone put it that way before, but yeah, I guess so. But that's a probably example of like, it's not grass is greener, but it's like, because I've had that for a while now, I'm like, I wonder what it's like to have a job again and like work for someone. And
imagine you in an office, man.
You know anybody who I've said about I'm looking to like move into the world of work? Best mates, close mates, colleagues have been like, Lance, you won't last 2 seconds. And I'm like, I can do it. I've done it before. But people do say to me like, I'm just picturing you in an office and it's not computing.
No. Turning up half hour late. Oh, it's all right.
No, but I was going to say I didn't used to turn up late for. It's madness because people I might have applied for jobs or whatever, and then like someone looks back at this podcast and they go,
"All right,
he's just outed himself there that he turns up late." No, it's just kind of like I've done this for a long time now, so I probably am looking at what do I want to do going forward. Because the option is to keep pushing with what it is that I'm doing because I can do, or do I, look at other avenues? But it always will need to like fit with what I value doing, because I've done something before where it didn't fully value. Because after the youth work job, and then because they got standardized by, taken over by another company. So what I used to do on the day to day drastically changed. And I didn't agree with how we did it.
Right.
So I took redundancy and left, and I went to work in a school. And schools are like great. I've got nothing against the schools. It's just that the way that I was asked to work with young people there compared to what I used to do before, polar opposite. And I wasn't the person that I was.
Okay.
Didn't like it. And I was pretty miserable. So
is that because like when you did it, you had the freedom to be creative in how you approached it? And when you're in school, this is a curriculum, you must treat everyone in this way.
Exactly that.
And how can you impact a kid's life if you have to teach, or you have to structure exactly what they must learn in a certain way, because we all learn different.
So I'd have a kid in the school who would present the same way that a kid that I had in the youth centre, but I can't present as Lance, the youth worker, to this kid and be informal and like figure out how to work with that kid. I had to be Mr. Ogunyode and work within the curriculum, and not only that, but I had to like discipline them according to the school's discipline system. And I just felt like I wasn't doing what I actually wanted to do. It's not the school's fault. They've got to make sure that there's roles for everyone. It's just I wasn't in a role that I felt brought the best out of me. And then ended up, Crossfest came along and there's an opportunity to just be a CrossFit coach and work on that. And I took it again for like no money at first, but I mustn't have much respect for money, me.
Well, you get it all the way at River that time.
Yeah, I give it all the way. I mustn't have much respect for it. I probably need to sort that one out as well. But yeah, so that's just, I think in terms of the future, it's just that for me. It's just, you're DJing and everything now, but say in the future you wanted to have other things in life. Yeah. Are you going to DJ every weekend of the year and still, say it's a family or whatever? How are you going to do that? Yeah. So it's more, how will I marry the two things up? I'll figure it out. I'll just go to the beach, fall asleep.
Yeah. Well, that's your place, isn't it?
That's my place. I just go and lie on the beach and go to sleep, horizontal.
Yeah, mate, we've got some really good stuff here, but the last thing I have to ask you to do is to leave me a question for the next guest. Not sure. Well, I know it is, but I'm not going to tell you so that it doesn't impact your question. But anything you want can be about anything, as left field as you like.
Just a question they've got to answer.
Yeah.
So like I had the flow state.
Yeah.
So I'll probably link it to what we just talked about. So I guess it's like, how was the question worded to me?
What are you doing when you're in flow state, or how do you get in flow state? So
I guess for me, I'd say like, what do you define as like purpose?
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Because like, do you want me to elaborate on that? Oh, we've run out of time.
No, you're good, mate. I'm just writing it down.
Because I think like there's duty, isn't there? Things that you have to do, like obligations, and that people can like say is purpose, which is for them because that's what it feels like. But for me, I don't have any like dependents.
Yeah, same.
And you're the same, aren't you? So for when you don't have a dependence like that, it's more like what is your actual just purpose? Like what gets you out of bed? What's the reason why you're doing all these things? Like what's the actual reason why you're doing it? Because I've had to think that stuff through in terms of my work and things like that. So I guess I'd say that. What do you define as purpose, or like your purpose? Because that's an individual thing, isn't it? That.
And so I'll ask them what do they define as purpose, and if they give me a duty, do you want me to dig them out and say that's not purpose? That's duty?
So if they say like, my kids, then that's a fine answer. If they like, if like they didn't have kids, they would still feel like they have a purpose, because that's an external thing in my brain. Only it's only what I think. That's an external thing. So if I had a dog, I might say my purpose. I'm not comparing dogs and kids here, by the way. Even, but if I had a dog, then I could say
a dog, to be honest.
Yeah. But I'm saying like if I had a dog, I could say that's my purpose. Is the dog, but it's an external thing. So if the dog like passes away or something, because I did have a dog and it did pass away, if that happens, then does that mean that the purpose is like gone with it?
I think it's more prevalent with kids to ask that question though, because I know you say you don't want to because you can't relate to it, but I'd say if you are a parent, it doesn't matter what you are, in fact, to me, if your purpose is anything but yourself, you set yourself up for failure. Because as a parent, you are the best parent in the world that you are capable of being when you're the best person you are capable of being.
Yeah.
So you can't be the best parent unless you're the best person. So therefore, your purpose has to be you becoming the best version of you, so that you can then be the best version of whatever you need to be, whether that's a husband, a wife, a father, a mother, and all that stuff. So I think it's one thing that is overlooked, and I see. I don't know. I know Tori's talked about it. Like, her purpose is Oscar, very much so, but she's focusing so much on how she can be the best version of her to be the best mum, that you see firsthand that, you know, she's worked that out, that she can be the best mum by being the best version of her. And so I think, like, it is really important, definitely.
Well,
when your kids get to 18 and move out, what's your purpose there?
Yeah,
you know
I think like I agree with what you and Tori said there, because, and it comes to like it's like a growth thing. So like, if you know what your values are, like one of my big things is like growth. So you'll just see me watching YouTube videos on like personal development stuff, because I just find it interesting, like the psychology of it all. But I think if you're like committed to like a growth mindset in your head of how can I be a bit better, how can I learn from this thing, how can I, like, you know, if you're doing that, like constant self-reflection, then if you take that into parenthood, even if you don't go into parenthood or whatever it might be that you deem as your purpose, already think in that mindset where I'm going to try and be the best that I can be with this, but it's going to start with me being the best version of me. Yeah. Then you kind of set yourself up to fail a little bit, because if you derive all your purpose from that thing, then like I said, if it goes. Yeah. But I think if you just commit to the growth side of it, like if Tori knows that she wants to learn as she's becoming a parent, so she's not just being a parent and doing what she thinks a parent should do. If she's like, how can I be this next level parent at the same time, then she's also putting into herself at the same time as being a parent. So she's not like losing all of herself to the kid. It's more she's also growing herself through doing that. Yeah. This is a mindset thing, isn't it? I think, but I can't talk. I don't have kids. I just wonder because I don't have kids, there's no obligation. So you've got to try and think of what's the reason why I'm getting up and doing the things that I'm doing.
I think though, in not having kids though, and having purpose, I don't want to say you're almost better placed to pass that judgment, but I don't have to get out of bed in the morning for nothing other than me. You know what I mean? And I get up every morning, I train, I walk, I read, and then I get on my working day. I'm doing all that for me. Yeah. And that means that I understand purpose in a way that people that are doing it for other people don't. So, you know, we can say we don't understand because we're not parents, but equally, they don't understand what actually having you being your own purpose is. Maybe some
self-derived, especially because being a business owner as well is like that, isn't it? Because you've got to develop that mojo in your head to actually bother with the business, because you're not always motivated to do it, but it's only you who can do it. Yeah. So it is that, isn't it? It's like, because it's the same as if you wake up in the morning and you normally train or go on the bike or whatever at 7, you could easily just not do that. Yeah. Because it won't affect anybody but you. Yeah. But if that was a kid crying at 7, you'd have to go and tend to it, wouldn't you? Yeah. So you have to like motivate yourself.
Unlock its cage, let it out. You know. I said it to myself the other day though, right? I was on the bike and I would sometimes do some core after. Yeah. And I said to myself, I didn't want to do it. And I was like, oh, it won't change your life. And in saying that, I actually just reframed that same question to, oh, it won't change your life, and did it. Because I was like, not doing it for that 10 minutes ain't going to be good for me. You know what I mean? It's only going to take 10 minutes. So in asking myself that question where I was a little fucking pussy for a little minute, I was like, just frame that same question the same way. It won't change your life by doing it. It's 10 minutes, fucking get it done. And it's that, isn't it? You know what I mean? Whereas people use that same language to make an excuse. Oh, well, doing 10 minutes of core ain't going to give me abs. But not doing it won't. And also 10 minutes is just 10 minutes. Get it done.
I saw something about that actually recently. It was a quote. It was basically a really simple thing, and it just stuck in my brain. And it was, if it's going to take less than 3 minutes to do, just do it now. Yeah. And I was like, that's just that for me is a really simple way of just thinking about it. Yeah. So that's where the inner voice might come in. Because if I'm like, my stupid thing is, when you wash your bed in,
putting it back up.
Yeah, mate. Like, because I always leave it to it's never dry until the end of the day, and I've forgotten that it's even there, and then I'm like, oh, I'm knackered now. All I do is get in the bed, but I've got to turn that thing inside out and then get the quilt and mess about. And in my brain, I'm like, I might just get in the bed without putting the covers on.
You just can't, though, can you?
No, you can't.
You can't.
But that's where that kind of thinking comes in. That I'm like, it's going to take you about 3 minutes. Just do it, and then as I'm doing it, it's not even there's no effort to it whatsoever. But
it is the worst job.
I hate it. I hate it.
I even think, people love getting in bed with fresh sheets. I think the trauma of having to put it back on offsets the fresh sheets. It offsets it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not even pleasurable at that point, is it?
But that's why it's good when you live on your own like we do. You don't even have to wash them.
No.
Mine walk off into wash basket themselves sometimes, mate. I'm like,
just a bit of Febreze on there. Just Febreze them, shake them out a little bit, get back into bed.
I think on that note, before we admit any more fucking atrocities, we'll call it.
What is going on here? Like, I feel like you've got a lot of me there, to be honest, actually.
It's been good.
But yeah, did you get the important stuff you needed?
I think so. Well, we'll let the viewers decide.
We'll see.
Cheers, mate.
Boom.